they don't have, they lack imagination. How can we help them using this method?
Yeah, that is a question I hear now and then, and it's a little bit. I mean, if I tell a person to imagine a movement,
yes,
some people they do it at once. That's no problem. But there are people that don't think. But if I tell the same person to fantasize they are moving, then sometimes they can do it. Or if I tell them to think that you move, then maybe they can do it.
It's about the word which activates?
I think sometimes it's about the wording you do. And I mean, how do you do when you imagine? I think there are different ways of imagination, depending on what kind of learning style I have. For example, some people, they learn better when they hear things. Yes. They use their hearing. And maybe then they imagine in a different way compared to people that learn better when they see things.
Yes.
So, for example, if I'm the kind of person that learns better by seeing, I guess that for me, maybe imagination means that I think I'm standing outside myself and see myself moving. But if I'm more sensitive, I learn by sensing or by doing, then maybe I can sort of, how do I say, then maybe I can have sort of imagine how it will feel. What are the sensations in my body? Which muscles will move? And I also think that to be able to imagine a movement, I think you more or less have to have some sort of sensorical possibility to move. You can't imagine moving an elbow if you can't move it. For example, I had a client many years ago, and she had been operated in her spine. So there were three vertebrae that were fused, and they couldn't move. So I told her to try to imagine her spine, to see her spine for her inner self. Yes. And she was able to follow the spine from the neck and down, but then she came to a place where it was totally black. And that was the part that was fused. She couldn't imagine that part of her spine.
So you have imagination when you have the nervous system. So it's necessary to have a nervous system.
I don't know if you can't imagine if you don't have a nervous system, but of course.
Yeah,
because then you can't. At least there's nothing happening in the brain.
Yeah.
And imagination is something happening in the brain.
Exactly.
And if you are really good at imagination, the things that happen in the brain will be the same if you were doing the movement.
Yes, but that's the one I'm working. Yeah.
And it's also I think I wouldn't say all the time, but usually when we use imagination in Feldenkrias, in awareness through movement, we usually do a movement on one side.
Yes.
And then we imagine the movement on the other side. So in our brain there are already created a pattern
of this image.
Of this movement.
Yeah.
And then we can sort of use that pattern to imagine and feel it. And I think the brain does it even if we don't think about it, because if you do something on one side with one foot and you don't do anything with the other foot, after a while the brain has transferred the learning if you do it on the right side over to the left side without imagination. With imagination, the transferring will be more effective and quicker.
That's a good news for people who are symmetrically obsessed.
Yeah, that's a big problem with those people, because that could be a big
issue
question.
Yeah.
Because is it good to be symmetrical?
Well, again, for some people, it's a kind of a purpose to become that.
It's a purpose, but they are not aware that we aren't symmetrical. There isn't a living human being that are symmetrical. I mean, the two sides of the brains are different.
Yeah.
The two lungs are different, and so on. So symmetrically, that's a stupid idea to be symmetrical.
Well, it's interesting thing to modify my questions to ask you another one. Where do you think comes this idea of being symmetrical, this obsession?
I don't know, maybe from art, I don't know. I have no idea.
I see.
That's not my... I don't think that's not the question for me to answer.
I just got curious because...
I think it's the society. It's something in the society.
All right, I see that.
It would be interesting if we could travel back to the Stone Age.
Yes.
Would they have the same obsession of symmetry?
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be interesting if that would be possible.
Right. Okay.
So I can't answer it.
Well, because symmetry and beauty was sometimes associated with health, and probably that's the good way to ask another question. How do you?
One more thing about to be symmetrical. I think the important thing is to be able to do the same thing on both sides and in different ways. So maybe to do a more or less the outcome of the movement should be the same. Yes. But it doesn't mean that I should do it in the same way with my right side that I do it with the left side.
I see that.